Welcome to Protea Conversation. Today's guest is Anshul Agrawal, the founder of June 15 Consulting and the host of the Accounting Trailblazers podcast. Anshul works with accounting firms across North America to help provide them scale through a modern staffing model he calls direct ownership offshoring, giving his firm owners full control, stronger culture, and long-term leverage instead of relying on traditional outsourcing. Through his podcast, Anshul has spoken with dozens of firm leaders who are rethinking growth, talent, and operations in a profession under real pressure to evolve. He brings a clear, practical perspective on what's broken, what's working, and what firms must do to build a sustainable, future-ready organization. Anshul, welcome to Protea Conversations. It's so great to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Zane. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm excited about our conversation.
But is this a busy time for you?
So it is busy, but not because clients or prospects are reaching out. It's because a lot of clients have their direct employees starting in the first week of January. So I wasn't expecting it to be this busy. My plan was after 15th of December, I told my wife, hey, I'm going to have 2 or 3 weeks off. We're going to catch up. It'll be great. But it ended up being extremely busy because we had ordered laptops for our clients. They didn't get delivered. I got to know on the 1st of January that, hey, we can't deliver you the laptops on time. I was like, okay. So the first 2 weeks, I think this would be the last busy week until like April 15th or even 1st of May. It did get busy just with a lot of onboarding and a lot of clients. When they go direct, they don't realize there's a lot of small things they need to do. Something like holiday calendar. Now they need to adjust their holiday calendar because they have 2 employees in the Philippines. Getting Outlook installed on the mobile app of your India employee. That requires working with your IT vendor, getting the VPN installed. So there's a lot of these small things. And I do most of that heavy lifting. So it has been busy, but good busy. That means like the employees are they started, the trainings are going on, and hopefully the dollars will start to roll in starting February. So it's been good busy.
But let's talk a little bit about what you do. You know, it's direct ownership offshoring. It's this different model, right? It's instead of just some random office that you've never seen the people, just sending work there, hoping that it comes back better. It's more these are part of my team. These are my employees. I'm going to work closely with them and put my processes in place, and they're just part of my team. But explain this in your own words, because you and I have spoken about like offshoring in general, and I do it a lot, and it gets a bad rap because it's not done properly. You're fixing that problem. Like, give me the 5-minute marketing spiel around it.
Yeah. So there's two ways to work with global talent. You could either lease resources from a BPO or an agency, or you can build your own team. When you build your own team, it's called direct ownership offshore because you have a direct relationship with them. You own that relationship with them, and it's offshoring because it's a global team member. They're not based in the US or Canada. This model came to be because with the outsourcing model, it was working good for a lot of firms, but a lot of firms wanted more control. They wanted to decide every detail of their offshore employee, how they're working, how they're getting trained, what quality standards are being set. To make sure that those standards are being upheld, they wanted to make sure that they have the same culture, that there's full integration with their US teams. And so firms started looking at like, how can I do that? But without taking a lot of compliance risk, without spending a lot of money on like physical infrastructure. So that's how this direct ownership model was born, where I help accounting firms hire their own employees in India, Philippines, Argentina. But then I give them the option that, okay, you don't have to take the compliance risk. If you don't want to register your entity in any of these locations, you can use my company as either your PEO or your employer of record. So that takes away all the compliance risk. And then you don't have to invest a lot in physical infrastructure. You instead of setting up a big office, you could rent space from WeWork. It's like $100 a month. So now you have your own people, but without a lot of financial exposure or compliance risk. So that's how this works. And a big part of that is just advisory. A lot of these firms are small or mid-sized firms. They don't have the expertise to manage or really operate in a foreign country. So what they need is sort of like a fractional offshoring leader. And I fill that role. I advise them on everything from strategy to recruiting to creating processes to performance management and anything really in between. So they get all of that as well. So that really then starts to become a solution that even a solo practitioner can come on board. So that's what direct ownership is, and that's basically the problem it solves.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, obviously, I do that. That's what we have in South Africa. But I didn't know any better when I started out. So I just, I'm from South Africa. We'll open an office there. We'll hire people. We'll figure it out. But not everybody has that opportunity, right? Not other people have grown up in another country, understand the compliance, and going to these accounting hubs, which are India, Philippines, Argentina, where there's so much really great talent just sitting around looking for opportunities. Be able to tap into that way in a way that you control the relationship, I think is huge. I think, and we'll get a little bit more into our pet peeves on offshoring, but I think what you're doing is amazing. I know you do a great job. I know you make people really happy. But I want to ask the first question that I think is the most important question is, how the heck did you get into this?
Pure luck. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. As a teenager in 2001, my family basically said, well, you're moving to the US. Didn't really have a choice. I didn't want to. I wanted to stay in my hometown, but we grew up at a time where if your parents said something, you did it. So I moved to the US. I was in the US for 10, 12 years. Just starting a company there was so challenging because you had to get a green card, and getting a green card was such a pain, right? So I was like, it's not worth it. So I moved to Canada in 2012 and I started a consulting firm where I would do anything that someone would pay me for. But because of my global background, right? I was born in India, then I lived in the US, also lived in New Zealand, and now I was living in Canada. I started to get a lot of global work. So my first big break was General Electric and Costco. They were doing some global research, and I was able to get in touch with them just by sheer luck, and they took a chance on me. So that sort of snowballed into a global expansion consulting business where a lot of Fortune 500 companies, when they were launching products or they were trying to enter a new market, they would hire me to help them with parts of that, either market research, either go to market strategy. Then 2022, one of my clients from one of these big companies, he became a COO at a mid-sized accounting firm. And he reached out to me with the problem we talked about. He was like, Anshul, we can't find accountants in the US. We're under a lot of pressure to increase profitability. So we want to look at global talent, but we don't want to outsource. It's not that outsourcing didn't work for them. It was going okay, but they wanted better margins and they wanted more control so they could grow their India team with them. And so they reached out to me and they said that we want to do what all these bigger firms have done. Like we want to have our own team, but we can't take that compliance risk. We can't pay you a lot of money. So can you figure out a way for us to have our own team so that it meets all the criteria and you're able to make a living with that too? So they basically helped me create this model. Like everything about this model, basically, I worked with my first client and we created it together. So that's how I just sort of stumbled into global expansion and then into accounting. And then I saw that offshoring really was broken here and nobody was doing it right. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. Not many people were doing it right. And I just saw a big opportunity and it fit well with who I am too, because I'm a very bad salesperson, but I love to educate. So that works really well with accountants because if I try to sell you as an accountant, you're already shut off. But if I try to educate you, you're more open to it. So that helped me sort of meet new people, get more clients. So that's sort of how it happened and then how I decided that, okay, I'm going to stick.
Oh, that's interesting. I've got so many questions, but let's start with that note that you made that, you're a bad salesperson. Yeah, I think that's a benefit for you because I see the accountants that are looking to do this. They don't need to be sold on the idea. They just need to be educated and understand if it'll work for them, right? So I think that's a huge benefit that you're not selling. I mean, I know you're selling, but not selling in the
Yeah, I mean, I
not the used carman like type way, right?
I completely agree with you because when you look at the sales playbook, right, it says, well, don't end a call without getting a follow up meeting. Make sure there's a call to action and everything. Make sure when you're reaching out to somebody, you're adding value with every interaction. I just don't know how to do that every time. And so instead, I just default to saying that, hey, I have written this article. It may be interesting for you to read. And that's gotten more traction.
Yeah, that's incredible. Let's go back to the first conversation. Your parents just told you to go to the US. Like, talk me through this. I mean, I've grew up in South Africa, a lot of Indian families. Like I've heard those conversations before, but talk me through how it went with your family.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, it's a patriarchal society. So it's really my father who decided everything.
Hmm.
And he just gave me two options. He was like, well, you could either study to go into these elite institutions in India, like IITs, Indian Institute of Technology, or like one of his friends was there at the time. He was like, no, 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 don't focus on IITs. Send him to the US. And I was just sitting there having my lunch or like there was some meal. And my dad was like, okay, you're doing IITs. And I was like, I don't want to do that because it's not that I'm not smart enough to get in. Well, we don't know because I never applied. But I was like, that's so much work. I don't want to do that. I want to take it easy. So I was like, all right, I'll look into the US thing. I had a friend who was going to the US. So I asked him, like, what do we need to do to go to the US? So he's like, oh, it's very simple. You just need to take the SATs and like, get your visa. So I was like, that sounds simple enough. And I told my dad that, okay, out of the two options you've given me, I'll choose the US one because it seems easier. That's really how it happened.
I love that. So where did you end up coming in? Like where did you land originally?
So that's a very interesting story. I was told by the consultant in India that it's very easy to find jobs in the US and that like everybody gets a scholarship after the first semester. So we ended up applying to quite a few schools, but I ended up choosing Florida International University in Miami. And it was slightly expensive, but I was like, I'm gonna get a job. And this was 2001, right? So right around the .com crash. So I land in the US, I go to the whatever office and I was like, yeah, I would like to apply for a job. And they're like, well, there are no jobs, right? You can apply, get on a wait list, but there are no on campus jobs. And you're an international student, so you can't work off campus. I was like, okay. Then I'd go and talk to the scholarship person. And they were like, well, there are no scholarships for international students. There's assistance for US citizens, but there's no scholarships for international students. So I was like, holy crap, like, what do I do now? So I asked them, I was like, I can afford like a year of tuition, but I don't want to go back to my family and tell them that, this is what we run into. Right around that time, I had applied to this school because the consultant was like, oh, this is a safe school, just apply. So this was State University of New York at Oswego, like right up at the Canadian border. So I got an email from them right up when I was going through all of these things. And they said that it looks like you have decided that you don't want to come to Oswego. That's completely okay. We wish you the best of luck, but you should know that you have a scholarship here. The scholarship is you get what 5,000 or like 50% off on your tuition, something like that. You get your housing for free and there's a job at the dining hall. If you take that, your food would be free too. So I did a comparison and I was like, this is going to be so cheap. So I called them and I asked them, hey, can I still transfer? Like I'm in Miami right now. So I left Miami and I went to upstate New York, and that's where I did my college. Then for my MBA, I went to North Carolina, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So that's sort of how it happened.
That's a crazy story. I love it. But I'm more like intrigued, like hot, sweaty India. Thought you're going to end up in the nice Miami, similar-ish weather, and then you ended up on the Canadian border where I'm sure it was freezing cold in winter.
It was freezing cold, and I didn't know that there was a New York State and New York City. I So I just thought it was all New York. So I thought it was just maybe like a suburb of New York. And so it was quite a shock when I got to Oswego. And I had chosen Miami partly because of the weather. I was like,
Mhm.
well, grew up in a hot place. Miami is like hot and nice. We're like, all right, we'll go there. But life had a different plan. So ended up going to Oswego where it was freezing. I'd never seen snow in my life. And the kind of snow you get there, it's almost like it's just so bad. Right. And the darkness, it got dark at PM. Like I'm in Toronto now, it gets dark here too. I hate that part. But I had a job in the basement, right? So I would go to my classes at 8 a.m. I had classes on and off until 4. Then I would go to that basement for my job. And by the time I was out, it was dark. So when I went into that building, it was dark. When I got out, it was dark. So it was awful. Like the first winter was awful.
I always tell people if I was ended up on like in the Northeast and my first winter, I would have been back in South Africa. Like I don't think I would have survived. So I just saw the pictures of like the storms the last week, and it makes me want to go home. And I live in sunny California, right? Like it's life is a lot better. So I can't get that. I must say, growing up in the southern hemisphere, I cannot get used to the sun going down at 5 o'clock at night. Like 13 years and it still drives me crazy.
I hate that part. I don't mind the cold. It's actually like all white and snow right now here. I like that, but I hate that it gets dark so soon. Like that's the part that bums me out because it's no fun taking your dog out for a walk when it's dark and like you could run into like coyotes. I hate that part. I get it. Like you're in Los Angeles, right? So
I'm in Northern California.
still better than Toronto. So I've been traveling to LA a lot for like just accounting work, meeting clients, prospects, and like I get the appeal of living in California. It's so every time I've been there, it's so pleasant. So I get that part. But even there, like the sun goes down in the winter like early. So I that still sucks.
It does, and there's all the negative about California, but we do have great weather, and it's totally worth it. So, coyotes in Toronto is wild to me, but I'm also I
Yeah.
saw a bob. I was on a run the other day, and I got warned about a bobcat.
Wow. So we're in the suburbs of Toronto, right? So there's quite a few woods over here. So especially in the winters at night, coyotes would come out like skunks. Oh my God, so many. So it is what it is.
Yeah, that's also it's this time of year where like I'll go out in the morning for a run or to work out, and like skunk is in the air again. It's clearly their favorite time of the year and get frightened by something. Absolutely intriguing story and just the sort of way you did it. But let's talk about, you said by accident you became this consultant with like nothing happens by accident, right? Like there's always some hard work behind it. So what did you do to get that first contract with the big guys? Like what's the magic? Tell me how I can also accidentally stumble into a fantastic career.
I would say persistence, really nothing else. So when I moved to Canada, end of 2012, so I think for the first 6 to 8 months, I really did have a job. I had one of my clients or like one of my jobs in the US from my business school. I'd reached out to them. So I was just helping them part time. And then I got married in 2013. My wife moved to Canada and like together we would just look for work. So I would look for work online. If she saw I was getting too stressed or if I was watching too much TV, she would go online and she would find work for me. She didn't have a work permit at the time, so she couldn't work. So I was just looking at every avenue I could to find work. I don't know if we still have Craigslist. I would post a lot on Craigslist. I would respond to ads on the local Kijiji website, which is like the Canadian Craigslist. I would reach out to my network, anybody like old jobs, old bosses, anybody like, hey, do you have something? Can I help you with something? So I would get these like 2 hour, 3 hour gigs that, oh, I need to make a list of websites. Can you help me with that? So I kept doing that for like 6 to 8 months. And then my wife and I would watch Shark Tank a lot. So we were researching all the sharks and we came across Mark Cuban's investments. And one of his investments was a company called Hourly Nerd. And Hourly Nerd was basically a marketplace for consultants such as myself who were highly qualified, but who did not want a full time job and were looking for high paying quality gigs. So it had been started by Harvard MBAs. And so I was one of their first consultants. So when I signed up, then they would go and find all of these big companies and they would say that, hey, we have like consultants who are extremely qualified. So rather than hiring McKinsey or Bain for everything, there's a lot of small things that you still need help with. Why don't you post those projects on hourlynerd.com? Now it's called Catalent. So they would post these projects and I would just be on that website every morning. I'd wake up, I would go on that website. And if I saw like there was a posting, I think it was there where I saw a posting by General Electric and by Costco. And I applied to that. And there was just a lot of research involved in how to pitch yourself in like 100 words or less. So I would experiment with that. So did that for quite a while. And then October 2013, I remember that day. So that's when I'd applied and I got my first big gig. So it took like a year of just scraping through, going online, calling people, did a lot of cold calling too. Hated that. Absolutely hated that. But did that for a year and it took me a year to get that. And it was a small project. The one with General Electric was, I think, only $3,000 for like 2 weeks of work. The one with Costco was also around the same. But once I had those, then it just snowballed into like a real thing.
That's incredible. Especially, you started by telling me that you were too lazy to apply yourself to get into the top Indian universities. Then you get out of your studies and you work yourself to the bone to get what you want, right? And do the type of work you wanted to. So it does show, and if there's any parents listening, if you have a kid that's maybe not applying themselves and are being a little lazy, it might be that they just haven't found their passion. Because Anshul found his, and all of a sudden he was willing to put in the hard work. And
I don't know if Indian parents are going to like what you're saying, but yeah, I hope they listen.
maybe I'm trying to convince myself about my own kids that likes to do the bare minimum. I tell my mom will tell you the story as well. Like, I was a terrible student, but I get good grades, and it used to, it was the most stressful thing to have me as a kid because you'd never see me study. But if you want to work it out and you want to figure it, like, you can do it. And proof, a little bit of hard work, a little bit of determination, a little bit of grit, and you started to build a resume, and you've used that resume obviously to now develop your business, take on your June 15 consulting even further. You're now in this world of helping accountants find good talent, right? And they're trying to build these practices in the best possible way. We all know the labor market is tight. This is helpful. Like, we have the tools to work globally. Yeah, I've been doing it for 12 years. It takes a little bit of work. It is tricky, but it is doable. When you're talking to these accountants and they're coming to you and they're like, Anshul, this is what I want to do. I want to set up the office. What is the conversation you're having with them? Like, how are you not only like educating them, but at the same time, maybe even doing a check for yourself if this is the right type of person who should be going this route? Like, how does that conversation look like?
So there's two types of conversations. The first one that I'm seeing more and more of is they've tried the agency model and something didn't quite work about that. A lot of times it's the agency that overpromised and underdelivered. And a lot of times it's just the client themselves. The CPA firm did not do what they were required to do. They did not set up their offshore resources for success. So when we have that conversation, I get into that, okay, what's going on? And they'd be like, well, we were promised a senior, but we didn't get a senior. Or we thought that we'd give them work and it'll be ready the next day, but it didn't happen. And as I ask them questions, it becomes clear that a lot of times they didn't do what they were required to do. They did not give instructions properly. They did not provide any training. They did not provide clarity or set expectations of what we want. So a lot of times they were assuming that it's going to be plug and play. And I think a lot of us in the industry are to blame for that, because when we talk about offshoring, we usually talk about the good things. One of the things I've started to do lately is talk about what could go wrong. So that's how that conversation goes. That here's the problems we had, and when I go through why they had that problems, more often than not, it's the firm that was at fault. And then they look at, okay, then what do we do? So then I go through like a full discovery call with them, and a lot of times they still don't want to do the direct ownership thing, and that's completely fine. At that point, I refer them to some of the agencies, or if they want to go through the direct route, then I help them with that. So that's the first set of conversations. The second is more about they're hearing that everybody around me like is offshoring. So I guess this is something I need to try as well. So then again, it starts with understanding what their goals are, understanding if going direct works for them or not. There's a lot of convincing involved, because if it's like a small firm, great. It's only one or two decision makers. But even at mid-sized firms, you can run into 5 or 6 stakeholders. And almost always, there's always one person who's not on board. So a lot of that conversation, a lot of that effort is going into addressing that person's questions. And it's just a lot of myths about offshoring. The quality would be bad. Well, no, like if you do your jobs correct, or it won't be. Well, data won't be secure. No, the data will be secure. So there's just a lot of those conversations we have. Quality, the security, integration with the US team, cost savings, ethics of it. Sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to pay someone $10 an hour. It just feels like I'm cheating them. Or like, we hired somebody in the Philippines, somebody for the back office, and they asked for $600 a month. And my client was like, is that real? Like, are we exploiting someone? And I was like, no, that person was getting paid $300 a month, like with the local employer. It's just, we're paying them double. We're paying them well above and beyond what they would get from any other employer. Just because it's cheaper for us doesn't make it unethical. And I'd be like, if it bothers you that much, you can pay them $3,000 a month. They're not going to say no. So that usually calms clients down. They're like, oh no, I think 600 or 1,000 is fine. It's that's how the conversation begins. And then every firm is different. So depending on what they want or what they're worried about, we talk about that more.
It's so fascinating because you just listed off some concerns that people have. And I, for a second, I was like, is that the concerns of offshoring? Is that concerns of having employees, right? Like it's the same concerns.
Amazing.
Like everything that you're worried about is what you should be worried about if you're hiring people. Like if I hire somebody that comes and sits at this desk right behind me, I still have to be worried about data security. It doesn't matter if they're right here or a million miles away. We're all still using the internet. We're all doing everything online. Like, the hackers are still coming for our laptops. Are we worried about quality? Well, the quality is a product of the firm and your processes that you put in place. It doesn't matter where the person sits. That's actually you. Like if the quality is bad, it's your fault, right? I mean, I get that the ethics side of it. It makes sense. I mean, I do worry more about the people that come in and have the opposite concern, where they're just really trying to squeeze price. Like the only reason they're offshoring is because they want it to be cheaper. Those are the ones that I really struggle with. But I do wish, like, and you're doing a great job of it. I know you're on the speaking circuit. You're spreading the good word. I know you and I have had conversations about this. I'm happy to talk about this offshore direct model to anybody. But this is such a good option for anybody, and like not even just accountants. Like if you have uh, a business that requires human knowledge and you just can't hire, like, we don't have to just look at our neighbors anymore. We can look at the global economy. Like these markets are open to us. Now, I know some will have, I know with tax, you have to like tell people where you're doing the work. Like there's all rules and stuff like that, but you shouldn't be scared of it, right? Like this is just an extension of your team.
I agree. I mean, I would say that it's okay to be scared of it. It's okay to be skeptical, but don't make assumptions. Do your research. Like if you're scared, talk to someone about what scares you. And it's actually a good practice, but don't assume that it's not going to work for you. I'm working with a solo practitioner right now, and I'm also working with a $40 million firm. So they're both using variations of the direct ownership model. So yes, it works for everyone who can keep someone busy all year round, right? If you're only looking for part-time help or help during busy seasons, yeah, then this is not the best model for you. But I agree with you. I mean, it gets a bad rap. There's just a lot of misinformation, a lot of assumptions out there. And that's actually, I spend a lot of time addressing those things like on a daily basis.
Yeah, I can imagine. How much are you doing in sort of matchmaking role to right area? Like, and you operate in the Philippines, India, and Argentina. I'm sure the people that you have access to have very different skills. And, I'm assuming it helps you a lot if they come with a very clear, direct, this is the job description, and then you can sort of match them to the best location. I mean, I'm assuming people who want a little bit more crossover, Argentina is lot easier than India or Philippines in terms of time differences.
Yeah.
How much of that are you doing in your
It's
business?
a big part of it because people assume that it's only India, right? Especially with me being Indian, when I talk about offshoring, people assume that I'd only sell India. When I was talking to Argentina, somebody told me that you're the only Indian who's selling Argentina online. And I was like, yeah, that's true. So it really boils down to what people want and what scares them. Smaller firms generally tend to gravitate towards Argentina because they value the same time zone collaboration a lot. And so, for example, the solo practitioner I was working with, he was okay to pay a premium because he was going to hire in Canada. It still cost him like a lot less. So, and he couldn't find that person in Canada. That was the bigger problem. So not only did he find that in Argentina, it was like less than half what it would have cost him in Canada. So a lot of smaller firms gravitate towards Argentina simply because of the cultural fit, because of the time zone. And then India and Philippines, like firms that want to do a little bit of everything, tax, audit, they look at India because for tax, really, India is the only real option. And then Philippines is really good for like bookkeeping, for audit, but the talent pool is smaller. I spend a lot of time talking to people about the pros and cons, and usually people would end up with two, and then they get confused. I don't know what to do. So I sort of help them make that decision, sometimes even make that decision for them. And I always tell people, like, we're not stuck. Like, if you decide to go with India and try it out and you feel, I think we should have done Argentina, you can always hire your next offshore person in Argentina. So it's just how it is.
Yeah. Again, like hiring people, right? I hired somebody in the same town as me. That didn't work out. Oh, my next person I hired in the town over. Like it's just, it's again, like, my big push is like make people realize like this is just like hiring anybody. It's different because you have to, you've got the cultural differences. You spoke about the holidays that you got to figure out. The working hours might be a little bit different. But if you do it right and you use great people like Anshul to sort of support you in the system, I think this can be a great opportunity for a lot of people.
Absolutely. I believe like if you're stuck in your business, right? Like if you either are unable to unlock like a big opportunity or if you're unable to achieve a goal, unable to solve a problem, looking at global talent could be that key. So like my mission, like really as I think about what business am I in, I don't think I'm in the business of accounting or offshoring. I'm in the business of helping clients solve their biggest problems by leveraging global talent, right? I know it sounds a bit corporate-y, jargony, but
I
like
like it.
really, yeah, that's what I truly believe that that's my goal. Like, how can I help you solve your biggest problem using global talent? Really, so that's what it's about.
No, that is great. And how did you get into those three markets? I mean, that's intriguing to me because, that like I can see how people will walk in assumption, hey, you're from India, so tell me about your India office, right? But you've broadened that horizon to three different countries. Like how did that happen? Like that's obviously very unique. It's what differentiates you from a lot of people. But how did you stumble into that?
So that was a very conscious choice. India happened because like I am Indian, so I still have like a very strong network there. My first client who came to me, they had India in mind, so it was just an easy fit. Now when I started to pitch to other CPA firms, I saw me being biased towards India, and I hated that feeling. I was like, yeah, I think Philippines would work better for this person, but I don't do Philippines, so I would still try to talk India up. And I was like, that's just not good. I need to be very objective when I talk to my prospects, when my clients. So let's also look into how I can work in the Philippines. So that's how I added the Philippines. And this year was the first year when we onboarded our first client for Philippines. So the idea was that how do I be very objective? Because there are things that Philippines does better than India. India has a turnover problem. Philippines doesn't have it yet. I think as more firms go there, they'll start to have that too, but they don't have that yet. I also feel Philippines can does back office stuff better than India. So if you're looking for someone to help you with payroll or invoicing anything, right? I think Philippines is better. So that's how I added Philippines. But then I also started running into this issue where people are like, I would love to offshore, but like I can't handle the time zone difference. I know there's a way to do it. I know a lot of people are doing it, but I don't have it in me. So I started looking at other options that were time zone friendly. So I looked at Mexico. I traveled to Mexico. Great place. Nobody understands how Americans want their stuff done better than Mexicans, like outside the US. But there's not enough cost savings, right? You'll save maybe 10 to 15%. Then I looked at Colombia and looked at Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil. So Colombia and Argentina, it came down to Colombia and Argentina because really I had friends there. Colombia, it was great, but I just didn't have like a good, I don't want to say, and I just didn't have like, I couldn't find good people there. And part of that is just luck. I know there's great people in Colombia, like great accountants. But with Argentina, like I flew to Argentina, I met someone online. We spoke about how we could help set up something in Argentina. I flew to Buenos Aires. I met them. I was just amazed by the physical and the digital infrastructure. Like Argentina used to be a G20 country. Like they're just going through a hard time right now. So that infrastructure still remains. I saw office spaces. I met accountants. Accounting is one of the most coveted professions in Argentina. So when I looked at all of that, I felt Argentina edged out Colombia just based on the fact that our accounting is preferred and the infrastructure is better. So, and it solves the time zone problem. So that's when I started to offer all three. Once I start, and when I start offering my services to European firms, then South Africa would be next because that would play the role of Argentina. So that's how I got into all three. It was a very conscious choice so I can make sure I provide the best objective advice to my clients.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you sort of touched on as well. Taking advantage of what's happening in Argentina now is in the nicest way. You're giving people that are looking for jobs because their economy is in such a bad place, super talented, deep pool of accountants, but like it's just a terrible economy. So they are available, and
You are.
going out there and getting them work that's going to keep them busy, keep a roof over their head. Like it's a great opportunity. Just excellent talent out there. I do like that you mentioned South Africa. There is obviously really great talent out of there. I know the other place where there's a lot of talent, but it doesn't really work is Pakistan. That comes with its own problems.
Yeah, I mean, for me as an Indian, like so I got a lot of
It's a little tougher for you.
it's tough because if I start doing business with Pakistan, like I don't know what that would mean for my India business. Because I'm not an Indian citizen anymore. I'm a Canadian citizen. So there's like if you have traveled to Pakistan and all that, then like I don't know. I'm sure I'm overthinking it, but like it'll be hard for me to have like a physical presence in Pakistan. Like I would love to visit Pakistan, but I don't know if it's happening in my lifetime.
If you guys don't know the history of India and Pakistan, go give it a search. I even played on a cricket team that had Indians and Pakistanis on it, and they were good friends, but they also got into some heated debates with each other, and there were different social settings where they wouldn't talk to each other because they'd be in trouble with their home country friends as well. So I get it, but there is opportunities all around. I mean, I would say that the old school offshoring definitely did ruin a lot of this in people's minds, right? And I think you see the same thing, like the accountants that first tried QuickBooks Online and have never touched it since thinks QuickBooks Online is the worst thing in the world. It's actually come a long way and it's great. And the early days of offshoring to India, where it's just a factory of people just pushing through work, did give it a bad reputation. How do you deal with that sort of stigma? Especially, you're talking about mid-tier firms where I'm sure there's still partners that have gray hair and aren't as forward thinking. And this is probably a little bit harder to explain to them. Like, how do you deal with that stigma of the old school? We just dump and hope it arrives in good, like, shape the next day mentality that some people have to the outsourcing world, the offshoring world.
That's one of the biggest challenges, really. Let me see. It's not one thing, right? It's a bunch of things. Like, first is just acceptance. Like, I accept the fact that the stigma exists. I talk about it, I put videos on it, and I accept the fact that a big portion of accountants will have that stigma. And that was one of the reasons we talked about, like Argentina. That was one of the reasons I started looking at Argentina as well. There's no stigma related to Argentina.
Hmm.
Nobody really knows anything about Argentina except that they're good at soccer. When I get into a situation where somebody's like, "Oh, I'm never offshoring." Like, I remember call centers from India, total crap, never doing that. I'm like, "That's great. You should never do that then. How about Argentina?" And they're like, "Whoa, like, can we do this in Argentina?" I'm like, "Yes, great." So that sort of starts the conversation. And then I've had it lead back to India in one case where the client started with Argentina. We laid out everything, and then they realized, well, the only way we get what we want is if we start doing something in India. So that's one route that it takes where I start talking about Argentina, and people are like, okay, yeah, that could work. And in that discovery process, a lot of times people realize that their assumptions were just assumptions, they were incorrect. The other thing is education. I put a lot of educational content out there where I talk about why things are bad, right? So people talk about call centers in India, like how bad their service was. Well, I tell them that, do you know when you ask to speak with an American, that's probably an Indian dude too, just better trained. And they're like, no, no, they sounded exactly like me. I mean, I have met people who work at call centers who can do like different US accents.
Yeah.
It really depends on whatever company you're dealing with, how much money they've put in training. Like even today, you can get very crappy call centers or you can get call centers that are state of the art. But like it's really up to you to decide what you want to do. So accepting the fact, talking about Argentina, doing a lot of education, I think those are the ways I help them. And then I always tell them to sort of do a test, right? Like no one's asking you to invest millions of dollars. If you feel that this could work, how about we try out a bookkeeper or two bookkeepers? Right. So the stigma is mainly associated with India. So it's either if it's not India, I said, why don't you try this in the Philippines or Argentina? So it's never like it's always a slightly frustrating conversation. But I also accept that a big portion of my prospects, firms who could benefit from my services, are in that bucket, right? So yeah, I just accept that as the reality of life and go through it.
Yeah, I'll pitch this to you. Like Anshul does a lot of great education. Give him a follow on LinkedIn. Watch his videos. He shares a lot of really great resources. So much really insightful stuff. And like if you are just even curious about the topic, just follow him for a little bit. Go watch some of his videos. Better yet, go listen to his podcast, the Accounting Trailblazers podcast. Great podcast as well. A lot of really good interviews on there. And it is, right? This is just education. It's like we're all trying to find talent. This is a great opportunity to do it. You don't have to do it. I highly recommend it. Something I do on a regular basis. I have an amazing team in South Africa, and it is my team. It is not just some random office. We work as a team. We're all the same team. We're all working towards the same goals. Jill, tell me about a day. Like, what does your normal day look like? Like, I'm trying to get my head around. Like, I feel like you're on phone calls, jumping around, pitching people, recording videos, taking the dog for a walk. But what is a normal day like? Maybe
Um,
out of the ordinary day look for you?
so there is no ordinary day for me. That's the
Hmm.
best and the worst part about what I do. I love the fact that every day is different, but I also get frustrated sometimes. But generally, I start with my to-do list. There's always like things I need to do. And there's a lot of content creation, or there's at least some content creation every day. Either I'm thinking of recording a video or writing a LinkedIn post or writing something. I'm usually with my current clients, especially this time around, like I wake up to an inbox full of questions from their offshore team members. So addressing that. Really, the day is broken into finding new clients, what I need to do for that, creating content, maybe following up on a lead. And the other part is like serving the clients that I already have that, okay, what can I do better? Lately, what I've been focusing on is I'm in the fortunate position where I feel I'm going to have so much business this year or enough business this year where I need to hire more people. So I am putting together like I'm standardizing everything. I'm creating templates every time. So today I had to email like the holiday calendar for 2026. So I created a template for that. Now going forward, somebody else can create it. And that's really what my day's like. Thinking of creating content, thinking of always constantly thinking of creative ways to educate accountants. How do I reach them? How do I educate them? And what do I educate them on? And that's sort of like a constant thing going on in my mind all the time. And I know I should worry, but I love that. I love that I can always do that.
It's I mean, there's probably not a minute in the day that I'm not thinking about Protea and things that I want to do and need to do and have to do. So like I totally get it. Tell me about your goals for 2026. Like what are we trying to achieve this year?
On a personal note, I want to eat better. So I did start that in last year, made a lot of progress, but with a lot of travel and everything happening, I need to get into better eating habits. So it's still January, so I have 11 months. But on a personal note, that's my goal. Like eat better, sleep at 9 p.m., 9 or 9:30 p.m. Because I want to start. I get up early, but lately it's been like on and off. But like I want to start getting up early again. Like and early, I mean like 4:30 a.m. And I don't know if I want to work right away. I want to use the first hour to just be maybe read a book or something. So I used to do that like a few years back. I miss it. That's my personal goal. On a professional level, I want to at least triple the number of people, our clients that I work with. So last year we added 7 firms to our portfolio that we're now working with 7 accounting firms. I want to get to 20 this year. I also feel like there's a lot of times what's happening is when I talk to firms and they're like, well, we're already offshoring and we're quite happy. So I hate the fact that I have to tell them that, okay, well, reach out if you need help or if things break, because I still know that they need help. So I'm working on creating sort of like a go-to consulting service for firms that are already offshoring because they too need a lot of help. So right now, I don't do anything for them. And I hate it when I can help somebody and I don't have like a service or like a product to help them. So that's also my goal for this year. That how do I take my advisory, which is, I believe, what's missing, to as many firms as possible, even solo practitioners. So I'm working on something that hopefully will be at a price point that'll be like throwaway, like 99 bucks a month or 150 bucks a month. But that'll give people access to an expert like myself, or they can ask questions. And like, I don't want it to be like an accounting model where I'm charging by the hour because it's like burnout. I'm looking at how I can incorporate like AI into that. That's the goal for 2026. Triple the number of firms that I work with and sort of have this product that works for a solo practitioner, works for a big firm who's already offshoring. So those are my goals.
Yeah, I love that. I love that consulting idea because I think there's a lot of people that are using some other provider, offshoring, doing whatever it is, and they don't know any better. So they're like, it's fine. But like if you can be like, well, let's assess if it's really fine, right? And it could be as simple as like, hey, let's do an MPS with your local team and see how they actually feel, because we always forget to ask that question, and then all the problems start rolling out, and you can look at better ways to improve it. I think that's fantastic. I love that goal. Tell me, what's the best advice you ever received?
So my first internship when I was doing my MBA was with this guy. I don't know if I should name him. I mean, I'm only saying good things about him, but you never know, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I just call him D, right? D. So, he hired me for an internship, and he was an entrepreneur, always hustling. I loved the fact that he would like create a business out of anything. So when I was working for him, one of the things he told me was when something really bad happens to you, work wise, you need to ask yourself a question that what do I need to do today? So 3 years, 5 years from now, I look back at what happened today and say that was the best thing that could have happened to me. So his thing was you're going to screw up, somebody else would screw up, or it would just be a bad day luck wise. You'd just have a very bad day and something would go terribly wrong with your business. Now can either panic or you can think, what do I need to do today? So that in a few years, I look back and say, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I like that's been with me. I don't even know if he meant that as advice or he just blurted it out, but that has stayed with me. Because I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you know that crap happens, and when it happens, it can be really bad. So in thinking of what do I do, how do I solve this? I think about this. Then okay, let me think. If this were to sort of make me pivot to a point where 10x my revenue, what would I need to do today? What's the mindset I need to be in? And that sort of helps me deal with like failures or any big roadblocks that I run into. And that's really helped me. That's the best advice I got.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like, take the opportunity in front of you, fix it the best possible way, and keep moving forward. You know, that's fantastic. And you never know. Like, I'm sure in what he means, it's like there's things he's fixed which turn into other businesses, especially with like a serial entrepreneur like that. It's just like, just
Oh, absolutely.
just get shit done is basically what he's telling you to do. And, that for me is some of the best advice. And you started the conversation that way, the hustle, like jumping online, looking for jobs. And clearly you've done really well for you. You've grown a great business, growing now, we're working with 7 firms. We're aiming for 20. We're going to get some more consulting going. This has been great. I've enjoyed my time talking to you today. I'd like to get to know you a little bit more.
Sure.
And we do that by doing some rapid fire. So
Okay.
I've got 5 questions for you. Are you ready for them?
I'm ready.
Okay. What's your favorite piece of technology that makes your life easier?
Right now, I'm a big fan of Notion. I just started using it, love it.
You want to quickly tell people what Notion is?
So I don't think I fully understand what it is yet, but it's like an all-in-one workplace where you can do everything. So instead of using like Word and Excel and a project management tool or a Wikipedia, like it's everything in one and it's extremely customizable. So you can have everything just the way you want it and it's all connected. So I have my to-do list there. I have my planners. Everything's in that one tool. And it's super easy and simple.
I love it because that's how the best way I've heard it explained. But like Notion has a cult following. You either love it or you hate it. And people who love it, like preach it. If you haven't checked, go check it out. Mountain or ocean?
I'd say ocean. Um, yeah, I don't know why I automatically related ocean to a beach and beach to sun. And right now with the winters on, like I would love the sun.
Yep. I love that. What's a quality that you appreciate in a good friend?
Loyalty, I guess. You can be my very good friend if you aren't loyal to me.
Do you have a book that you always recommend people read?
With books, like I don't have one book that I recommend. Like I've stopped reading nonfiction. I like to read for fun, and I would tell people to read books like fiction books on things that are important to them or things that they want to learn more about. So, for example, like I love to read about people who are living in different times, living in different countries, just so I could learn about that. Right. So I read a book. There's a book, American Dirt. It's amazing. It follows a refugee family from like Mexico to the US. It talks about why they cross the border, how they do it. So it just gives you more perspective. I read a book about refugees in Afghanistan and like how they became refugees, and it's all fiction, right? It's stories. It's just amazing. I love reading sci-fi books. Like what would happen if the society went in this direction? I really don't have one book I recommend, but there's a genre, I guess, right? Historical fiction. I love that. So yeah, read
No,
that up.
I love it. I make sure that I always smatter in fiction books between my nonfiction books, and with kids, it makes it easy because
Yeah.
they're getting into all sorts of fantasy and all sorts of things. So a lot of time I have to listen to it first to make sure that it's safe for them. So that's always great. Last question. What was your favorite meal growing up?
Favorite meal growing up? Jeez. So there's this thing in India where it's like fried bread with roasted potatoes and mango, not exactly mango puree, but like a mango shake. So I love that. Oh man, what did you do? I love that growing up.
Man, I love Indian food so much. I think if I had to move to India, I'd weigh 700 pounds in the first year because I would be eating so much.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, growing up.
Anshul, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for being a guest on Protea Conversations.
Thank you, Zane. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you again.
And with that, we ended another Protea Conversations. Thank you for joining us in this journey of learning and inspiration. Today, we've gained insight from our guests and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussion has given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Protea Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and would love you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence, embracing growth. Thank you for listening, be kind, and goodbye from Protea Conversations.